Good afternoon. This is Kurt Berglund with a demo and instructional video on the cards and dice baseball simulation called Baseball Classics. Now, if you're familiar with my channel and you want to look on my playlists, you can find some instructional videos for the basic game. And today what I'm going to do is to walk you through what the intermediate game looks like. And there have also been some changes to the Baseball Classics gameplay, which you may not be familiar with, that I've just learned about. And I want to show you those today as well. And then I'm going to set up a separate video where we walk you through 3 innings of gameplay with their premium edition cards, which are different than the cards that for the basic version, which is in my other demo. So let's get started. First of all, Baseball Classics I'm not affiliated with the company. I don't sell the cards. I don't make a profit. This video, the purpose of this video is for your information only, to help you decide whether you want to purchase the game, or if you've already purchased it, to make you aware of the rule changes that they've made to gameplay. So let's get started with my disclaimer out there. Let's get started with what this game is about. It's been around since 1986. It's had various iterations of it, and there have been some controversies. Some people like the game, some people don't like the game. Like any baseball simulation, I became aware of the game about 4 years ago. I purchased the game. I played a lot of the basic version. I have not played a ton of the premium version that I'm going to show you today. So I have a lot of experience with the basic, but I want to talk to you about some of the changes that they've made to gameplay so that you're aware of those and that you're an informed consumer. Okay, so if you are familiar with Baseball Classics, kind of just diving into this is what their basic game card looks like. There is a, on most of the cards, there is just one strip for the basic, and there are no lefty-righty splits in the basic game. However, about 2 years ago, they started a premium version of the game, and this is what those cards look like. It combines the basic card setup, which you see on this column, with the splits version that you can purchase. So in the premium cards, you get the basic card, which is what it looks like, and if you get, I'll cover this up, if you purchase the basic cards, this is what you see for Wayne Garrett in 1973. It's about the size of a business card. This card is about the size of a poker card and is a premium card because it contains the lefty-righty splits. The game is helpful in this way for visual learners because the yellow outcomes are bases on balls. The red outcomes are standard out outcomes. The blue results are strikeouts, and the green are hits. So before you even look at the print, if you see that you've rolled a yellow outcome, you've got a base on balls. If you see that you've rolled a blue outcome, you know you've got a strikeout. If you roll a red outcome, it's an out event. And if you roll a green outcome, it's a hit of some kind. And the print will tell you more about that. On the back of the premium cards are all sorts of statistics. They also have a batting lineup advisor for you to get some feedback on where you ought to hit these folks. If you want to follow that, you can. If you don't want to, of course, you don't have to. The players in Baseball Classics are all rated at the top left of the card. So as you look at the screen, You'll see bats, which will tell you which way he bats, left or right. You know Wayne Garrett is a left-handed batter, and that's what the left-handed symbol looks like. Then it gives you a bunt rating. Green is the best, followed by yellow, then blue, then red is the worst. Then steal, and then run for base running. Then, on this side of the card is defensive ratings, which are color-coded as well. Green is the best, yellow second best, blue third best, and then the red is the worst. All right. So for each card, this is what you get. Now, a pitcher's card is going to look a little bit different. Let's look at 1973 Tom Seaver. You'll get the same types of color coding that you get on a batter card, but this is just for pitching. There are separate cards for when the pitcher bats, and they look like these. When you get a pitcher, on the mound, you'll get the same things that you get for the batter. You'll get which way he throws, a defensive rating. It'll tell you if he's a starter or reliever, and then it'll tell you which hitting card to use for that pitcher. On the back of the pitcher's cards are also complete statistics for that pitcher for that season. All right, so none of that is terribly new. What is new is how they're handling defense. So let's take a minute and look at that. Now, what helps me with Baseball Classics is that I've taken the charts and I've put them onto a laminated page. So there's really only 2 pages of charts to refer to in Baseball Classics. But they've made a pretty fundamental change to how defense is handled in the game. And I'm going to show you that sort of laid against how they used to handle it. So let's look at that. At the end of every play on Baseball Classics in the previous version, you had to roll for an error check. And the error check, just ignore my symbols here. The error check, the only things that mattered on the old version of the game error check was the colors. So if you had a team fielding rating that was green, the only way you could get an error would be if you rolled a 3 or an 18. If it was yellow, the only way you could get an error is if you rolled a 3 or a 17. If it was blue, you could only get an error if you rolled a 4 or a 17. And if it was red, a 4 or a 16. Now, Baseball Classics uses a 3d6 system for all plays. So you roll the dice, you do an error check. Let's say I had a great fielding team and they were green. I rolled a 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 3 is 9. I rolled a 9. There's nothing there. There's no error. That's how they used to handle it. That's not how they do it now. What they have, and I'm going to show you the code here, they have a new system where in the upper left corner of my laminated chart here, you see an asterisk, means that you check for an error if you roll that and your team is from 1990 to the present. If you roll after one more piece to this. Let's say the only time you're checking for an error now is not after every play, but you roll the dice and you add up the 3d6s here, and if these add up to the 2 greens, if these add up to a 2, a 3, 11, or a 12 on the 2 greens, then you check for an error on the rest of the play. If they don't, you're done with one roll on each play. So the only way you're going to get a second roll on a play is if you roll with the 2d6s on the regular roll for an outcome, a 2, a 3, 11, or 12. So it's pretty rare that you're going to do that. However, if you do that, let's say this was your roll, and maybe we should bring in some cards now to get that outcome. it's a binary system. It's a 50-50 system for baseball classics. You're either going to be on the hitter's card or the pitcher's card. So let's suppose that it's Davey Lopes for the 1974 Dodgers facing Tom Seaver of the 1973 Mets. And let's suppose further that this was your role. Now, you rolled a 1, and a 4. And on the binary result, if it's a 1, you look on the batter's card. If it's a 0, you look on the pitcher's card. In the instructions, they say always think of the pitcher as having the ball, so that would be like a 0. And the batter having a bat, which looks like the 1. So let's suppose that this was your roll. You have a 1 on the binary die, which tells you it's on the batter's card. Then you have 1 plus 1 plus 4. So you have a total of 6. Now, Seaver is a right-handed pitcher, and if we're playing the premium game, this is a double play grounder off the bat of Lopes. So, do we check for an error? You say to yourself. Well, you pull these dice aside, and you're only looking at the greens. Since these are a 2, you know we have to look for an error. So then, in that case, we come back to the rating chart. Now, the rating chart tells us that if the teams you're playing are from 1990 to the present, you look for asterisks. If the team that you're playing in the field is from 1989 to 1960, you're looking for a dot. And if the team you're playing is from 1959 back to 1901, you're looking for a plus sign. So, you take all 3 dice. Let's say that the Mets are an excellent fielding team. We'll put them in the green column. And let's see what the result is. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is a 7. And we get a dot. We come back here, 1989 to 1960, which is where the Mets happen to be, the 1973 Mets. So we know that the 73 Mets have made an error. Now, how many bases is the error? Well, it's going to be another roll because you need to find out how many bases. So you look at this chart, the number of bases on the error. And this will be a 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 6 is 14. Takes you across to the 1, and that's a 1 base error for the Mets. So Lopes hit a double play ball on his original outcome of a 6, but the double play grounder was fumbled, and he is now safe on a 1 base error. That's how fielding is handled. So there's 2 new components to that. One is you don't roll after every single play event for an error. You don't do that anymore. You used to have to. The second thing is, based on the time period that the team is playing in, that helps to determine whether or not an error has been committed or not. If these 2 dice on the system, the 2 green dice combine for a 2, a 3, 11, or a 12, you do an error check. If not, you don't worry about it. All right. Next, they've changed base running a little bit. These are the strategy charts that you use for baseball classics. Now let's suppose that the ball was hit and you want to try and take an extra base. You're not going to look at bunting, you're not going to look at stealing, you're going to look at the base running chart. Now the base running chart is the same, except you're going to take a look and see on the green die where the ball was hit. On a green D6 roll, you're going to look and see if the ball was hit to, if you roll a 1, 4, or 6 and you have a right-handed batter up, the ball was hit to left. If it's a 2 or a 5, it's hit to center, and if it's a 3, it's hit to right. And you flip these for a left-handed batter. So let's suppose that Bill Buckner was up, and Lopes was on first base, and he hit the ball to left field, and John Milner was the left fielder for the Mets on this particular day. Well, if you look at John Milner's card, and Lopes is on first, he's a very fast runner, as you remember. So he would be in the green column for safe chances. Milner was a wonderful hitter, but not much of a fielder, especially in the outfield. And he is a red, so he's the worst you can be. Now, if the ball is hit to a red fielder, everybody on the base running gets one extra safe chance. And those are designated by these diamonds on the chart. So let's say Lopes, again, is running, and he's a green runner because we see that next to his rating. And he's going to try and take the extra base. Well, if he rolls a 14, he's safe on the throw because Milner is a red fielding outfielder. And there's an outcome like this for each type of base runner, whether they're yellow or blue or red. You get an extra safe chance if the outfielder is not a good one, and presumably to make up for or to reflect a weaker throwing arm. So this is a change to the base running. There's a new symbol, and there's a new opportunity for base runners to be able to advance if the outfielder is not a good one, to penalize the team on defense for that. All right. Now, there's one last piece that we should talk about. Now, I'm not sure when the revisions were made to the Baseball Classics system, especially on defense here. They should not affect the outcomes too much, although it seems like we're going to have to do some calculating to determine if the older teams in the first half of the 20th century may commit more errors based on how the chart is now set up, and the more modern teams do not. That could be, and I need to do the math on that, and I haven't done it yet. But there's one other change, and that is that individual fielding used to be possible on the intermediate version of the game. So you used to be able to find out which individual player the ball was hit to, and then roll to see if he made an error on that particular play. That's now only in the advanced version, and they have a more sophisticated a defensive check. So in other words, they have individual placement of fielders on a baseball diamond that is set up like a grid. So you have to place the players, and then you do a separate roll to see where the ball is hit to on any individual play. There are also ballparks so that you can purchase, so you can set up the grid reflecting the outfield walls and the foul territory for each ballpark that you might be using. There are current ballparks as well as historical ballparks on their website that you can purchase. Now, the importance of that is a couple-fold. One is that the defensive ratings are based on, for the most part, it looks like they're based on fielding percentages. So the players will make errors something akin to the frequency with which they did in real life, However, as far as I can tell so far, there are not range ratings. So range and errors are sort of lumped into the same rating, and errors get weighted more heavily. The second part to that is that if you're playing the intermediate game or the basic game, what matters is team defense. So each individual is rated green, yellow, blue, or red. 4 points for green, 3 for yellow, 2 for blue, and 1 for red. Then you add up your totals. That gives your whole team a team defensive rating, and that determines what makes the errors in a basic or intermediate version of the game. You might remember, I do, remember Vin Scully in the old days sort of arguing for team errors. This sort of reminds me of that, where the collective group of players reflect the ability of the defense, and that's what you're rolling for on the fielders rating charts that I just showed you. The advanced fielding is something completely different. It's on the grid, and the grids are broken out by ballpark so that you can reflect the dimensions, and you have to place the players where you want them for shifting or however you want to handle it for each batter in each game. If you played Sherco baseball, if you're familiar with Sherco, it's kind of on that order where you can adjust the ballparks, and you need to place the players, and you need to see where the ball was hit on each play. They also have wind and crowd noise effects that are built into the advanced game that players have to contend with. So the advanced game is quite in-depth and uses the premium cards as well. Now, there's one other piece sort of that I wanted to mention, and that is I'm going to walk through, for the intermediate game, a few innings of gameplay so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to do that in a separate video that I'm going to set up on my channel. So this one goes over sort of the basics of what's different about Baseball Classics. And now I'm going to take you through a 3-inning game to show you how gameplay works, and that'll be in a separate video that I will be posting right after this one. So that's what that video is going to do. I'm going to use the 1974 Dodgers and the 1973 New York Mets. We're going to play a 3-inning game, and I'm going to walk you through how to read the cards, what the dice results would be, how to do the defense, and all that good stuff. Hope you'll join me for that. If you have questions, please put them in the comments below. If you'd like to see me do a full 9-inning game of Baseball Classics, I can do that too. Just let me know that you'd like to see that. That's where we are for right now, so join my second video at this time if you'd like to see gameplay of Baseball Classics in action. Thanks for joining me. My name's Kurt Berglund. Hope you have a good day. So long, everybody.